It's thinking, but I'm pretty sure I'm up. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Mary Elder with 4 Points Family Chiropractic, and I'm going to, on this Facebook Live, give you a brief presentation about ways that you can boost your immune system, particularly given kind of what the world is like right now. So, some things to keep in mind. I'll try to keep an eye on the comments if I can answer them. If not, just leave them there in the box and I'll answer them at the end. But I'm with 4 Points Family Chiropractic in Austin, Texas. And this is just something that we're really passionate about. We've been trying to get on and do these once a month so that we can communicate with people and give them some things that they can use right away. So, about the immune system, kind of generally, it's overarching. I think we kind of think of it as like one particular thing, but it's spread out. It's like your whole body. There's a bunch of different parts of it. Your lymph, your thymus gland, your gut is a huge part of it, and it has a lot to do with your lungs and your skin as well, and your microflora. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But it really starts in vitro. It's something that you're building from like day one. You build it in utero, and for children, or well, for all humans, it actually peaks when you're in about the age of 8 to 12. That's when your thymus gland is building all of that memory so that your body can recognize microbes, bad microbes, as they come in and fight them appropriately. So there's this hypothesis called the hygiene hypothesis that basically the way human bodies are developed to respond to their environment, we cleaned our environment too quickly with the advent of a lot of ways to kind of disinfect things and with antibiotic use, and our body hasn't quite caught up to that, so it responds really violently to some things coming in, to some microbes, and that's kind of where autoimmune issues get involved as well. We're hoping to do a whole Facebook Live next year about autoimmune issues. That one might be a little bit longer. But the hygiene hypothesis is basically saying that we've cleaned up the environment too much. We're not exposing ourselves to enough microbes to kind of build that immunity. So the way that kind of plays out in real life is, I mean, let your kids play in the dirt. Maybe you go out in the dirt, garden a little bit. It's good to get exposed to more things in a smart way, in a way that's safe, kind of given everything that's going on. There was one study in the New England Journal of Medicine about the Amish, who have obviously a lifestyle that's much different than ours, where they're exposed to more microbes and, cattle in the outside and allergens, and their innate immunity was so much better than people who were in kind of typical traditional households. So that's one thing to kind of think about. But the microbiome is really a huge, huge part of your immunity, your immune system. And probably the biggest part of it is in your skin and in your gut. So Hippocrates, there's this great quote from him that says, all disease starts in the gut. You can kind of flip that and think that all wellness really starts there as well. So what you consume on a daily basis is having a really big impact in how well your immune system's functioning. One of the things that the University of Colorado found is that there are 3.3 million microbial genes in the human gut, and that's compared to only 22,000 genes in the entire human genome. So, I mean, I know we think we're important, but most of our complexity is actually in our gut. And 3 to 5% of the flora in a healthy gut is, and I'm going to butcher this word, but it's called Akkermansia muciniphila. And this particular bacteria has huge implications for your overall health. Higher numbers of this have been linked to lower risk of infection, both viral and bacterial, but it's also been linked to lower chances of diabetes, obesity, and they're even starting to do some research that it's got an impact on later dementia in life. So that Akkermansia muciniphila responds really specifically to certain types of food. Your gut, generally the microflora, loves fiber, and you want to make sure it's organic fruits, organic vegetables, This is fantastic for you overall, and it's really going to help your immune system boost generally. But if you want to feed that particular bacteria, it responds really well to catechins. So you can find those really densely in green tea and pomegranate, but it's densest in matcha. So if you're already thinking that maybe it's time to replace your coffee in the morning, that might be a good option to help build your healthy gut and making sure that you're keeping up with everything that's coming in right now. This particular time of year is obviously kind of a challenge. It's about to start getting colder, though it's kind of teasing us right now. But it's going to get colder and drier, and our risk for everything is going to go up because we're going to start to have some issues getting proper sunlight, probably actually getting our hydration appropriate. So these are all things to keep in mind as well. There are some obvious reminders when it comes to your immune system that I know for sure in our office we kind of talk to death with patients, but it's because they matter. So things like stress, you're gonna wanna avoid it as much as you can or mitigate it appropriately. The thing about stress is that our body can't interpret the difference between mental stress and physical stress. So when we're under stress, emotional, mental, we're still having a very physical reaction. And that's kind of a holdover from like Stone Age, from prehistory, you know, when there was something coming at us, we were paying attention to that. So if you have high stress, you're actually dampening the part of your immune system called natural killer cells, and those are specified to attack viral load. They are very specific to viruses. So when you're under stress, your adrenaline goes up, your steroid goes up, your natural steroid production, and all of this dampens your immune system. Because as far as your body's concerned, you know, the virus is nothing compared to what it interprets as a big animal with claws coming at you at 0 to 60 in 3 seconds thinking you look like a meal. So try to mitigate that in your life as much as you can, whether you do it through meditation, through making sure that you kind of have safe boundaries with work and all of that. I know everybody's working from home right now, so they can get you anytime they want. Another thing to be really, really cognizant of is your sleep. Again, we talk this to death, but because we care, the optimal amount of sleep is actually 7 hours a night for an adult, and it's a little bit more for kids because they're growing so much, but roughly 25% of Americans have sleep problems that they admit. 44% of adults in the United States report getting less sleep than they need, and 16% report getting less than 6 hours. It's not like we don't know we have a problem. We just need to be doing something about it, because this is when your body flushes toxins out and it actually clears any sort of bacterial or viral load that you have been getting throughout the day. So there's really two particular vitamins that you really need to know more about as we go into cold and flu season, and with COVID around as well. Again, these are really specific to immune building and prevention. The first one's vitamin D. Vitamin D, unfortunately, is something that a lot of us are deficient in, and we need it a lot. Not only is it a part of your hormone cascade, so how we're able to keep our hormones balanced, but it has huge implications for our immune system also. It's made in our skin in response to the sun. Now, the problem is, as the winter comes, our daylight hours drastically decrease. So here in Texas, where normally getting enough sun would not be a concern at all, if you think about it, we're going probably days not necessarily being in the sun. If you go to work in the dark and you come home in the dark or in the twilight, you're not getting that exposure that you should be, that you want to be getting. So it's something to be paying attention to. The most effective amount of time to be in the sun is 15 to 30 minutes a day. And that's without sunscreen, by the way. Sunscreen kind of blocks that vitamin D production. But a lack of vitamin D can have a lot of long-term consequences. The ones you hear about most are things like bone weakness, in extreme cases like rickets, things like that. We're talking more now at this point, difficulty with your immune system. We're talking aches, pains, some people with kind of a waddling gait, that's a vitamin D deficiency, all of that. So if it's decreased, you need at least 800 to 1,000 international units a day. Now, this is something you might not know your vitamin D status, and it's something that's actually a very easy blood test. If you're concerned about your status, if you know you don't get enough time out in the sun, or you've had previous physicians tell you you might be vitamin D deficient, find out. It's definitely worth going and getting the blood test. If you ask your PCP to run that for you, it's a blood test, it's quick, it's efficient, and it gives you all the information you need to kind of know your status there and build it if you need to. Now, the interesting thing about vitamin D is that it decreases, if you have the appropriate amount, it decreases your chances of getting the flu, your flu risk, by up to 30%. So that's a huge drop. It's a huge implication there. And if you find that you are vitamin D deficient, something to keep in mind is if you start to take supplements, if you just can't get out in the sun or you'd rather not, make sure that you are consuming vitamin D3. D2 is not as easily absorbable in our gut. So you'll often find that people are hyperdosing that, and it's because their bodies aren't absorbing it effectively. So if you are going to take a supplement, take vitamin D3. That's going to absorb better, it's going to be more effective, and it's going to help you long term. The other one you really, really want to know more about is going to be zinc. Zinc, again, huge help with your immune system. It's found in nuts, it's found in seafood. The highest place to get it is actually oysters. And we're in our month, so you can do that if you want. But suboptimal zinc is actually a huge problem that I don't think it's talked about enough. The World Health Organization thinks that, well, based on research, thinks that about 1/3 of the entire planet is zinc deficient. And it impacts your immune system so strongly. A deficiency in zinc has been linked to increased in autoimmune disorders, cancer, and it is hugely responsible for viral infections that don't need to be happening. Actually, 16% of worldwide deep respiratory infections are directly linked to a zinc deficiency. So finding out if you're zinc deficient, that status, that's really important also, and that's a really easy fix. Both of these supplements that I'm telling you about are really cheap. They're really easy to get, and they're very, very helpful. So what zinc does is it actually preserves the tissue barrier and the cell barrier. So viruses have trouble getting into the cells. If they do get in, zinc is responsible for stopping them from replicating. And that's exactly what you want, is you want the viruses to not replicate in your cell, because once they do, they end up bursting out and going to all these other cells. So if you stop that replication, the virus can't spread through your body. It also helps regulate the inflammatory process. To me, that's particularly important with COVID right now, because one of the hallmarks of a COVID infection is the imbalanced immune response. You heard, I'm sure, a lot in the news about the cytokine storm. That's an imbalance in your immune reaction to what's going on. So I know at this time of year, we also get a lot of questions about the flu shot. And I really think that that is something that you know you and your family best to make that decision. I personally do not get the flu shot. I've never gotten the flu shot. I don't love the numbers. Every year at the end of flu season, they come out and say kind of what the efficacy of the shot was. It kind of varies from year to year, anywhere from the teens to about the 30 or 40% about whether or not it actually prevents the flu. But I really prefer the numbers, just taking my vitamin D and my zinc, because that's better or equal to my decreased flu risk of 30 to 40% there. So that's just how I kind of choose to approach it. But again, whatever is best for you and your family, definitely do the research. If we can answer any questions, please definitely let us know. The last thing I do want to say about zinc. This, I know vitamin D, that's a blood test. Zinc's actually a little bit easier to kind of test your status on. So all you need to do is get your hands on some aqueous zinc, so some liquid zinc, and it's fairly easy to find. Ask us if you need any help finding it. But what you do is called a zinc test. So this will tell you pretty much right away if you're deficient or if you have plenty in your system. I was disappointed to find I was deficient, so that's why I have this on hand all the time. So you, well, less deficient now, I've been working on it. So you take about a capful of the zinc, and it's liquid, and you put it in your mouth, and you hold it there for about 20 to 30 seconds. If you start to taste metal right away, or like a soapy taste, you're fine. You have zinc in your system. You're gonna wanna take maybe a supplement once a week or every other week to keep the boost up and make sure that you're eating zinc-rich foods. So again, nuts, seafood. If you taste nothing, which a couple months ago, well, 4 months ago, I tasted nothing, that means you are zinc deficient and you need to be supplementing with this a little bit more aggressively. And the recommendation is 2 teaspoons once a day. I split it up. I did one in the morning, one in the evening. And now when I do the zinc test, I do taste metal right away. So my zinc levels have been raised back to where they should be. But this is an easy way to kind of know your status and keep an eye on your zinc levels. And again, with immune system, I would be remiss if I did not mention what's in my wheelhouse all the way, which of course is chiropractic care. The spinal adjustment has huge implications for overall wellness. When you stimulate your nervous system and return your body to homeostasis, it is prepared to handle things. That is exactly what we want. There's research that's been done that a spinal adjustment actually increases your IgA immunoglobulins by 129%. Now, IgAs are important because they're the most plentiful immunoglobulins, so it's the thing that's the defense right away when a bacteria or virus gets in your body, and that's exactly what they're built to do, is attack viruses and bacteria. So I know that's something that's definitely on my list as far as keeping my immune system healthy, because that's all I want, is to make sure that I am able to handle anything that comes at me from the world right now. So if you are concerned about anybody in your family, you know anyone who would benefit from this, please definitely share this webinar with them. But also, if you want anybody to get checked out, when we do these, one of the things we offer is if you call into our office and you mention Facebook, or anyone you know does, they can come in and get the full exam that we do, including orthopedic tests, thorough history, any necessary x-rays, and a review of findings, and a pillow in their first adjustment. It's over a $360 value for $49 if they just mention Facebook. So again, if there's anyone that we can help, please let us know. Thank you for joining me on this Facebook Live, and I look forward to seeing everyone around the office. Be well.